on, we can bring in Jesse Marks, who's Senior Advocate for the Middle East at Refugees International, joins us now from Washington, D.C. Jesse Marks, welcome to the program. So first up, it is just a terrible event that stretches across two countries. But in Syria, of course, as we've been hearing, it is compounded by years of conflict.
Thank you for having me, Nick. We are already in the fourth day of the earthquake response, and time is still running out. We're rushing for the last 24 hours to pull survivors from the rubble. In northeast Syria, the first responders have only accessed 5% of the damaged areas, according to UN numbers that came out this morning. The UN Security Council needs to take immediate action to demand a 30-day humanitarian pause and expand authorizations for UN agencies to provide aid to northwest Syria. We're at the point where if sufficient earthquake aid fails to reach northwest Syria, this will be a political failure, not a logistical one. Over 4 million people in the northwest, even prior to the earthquakes, faced acute vulnerabilities. And now this has just compounded and broken the already fragile situation that was on the ground. It's been 4 days until this morning UN aid finally crossed the Bab el-Hawa border crossing. But UN actors are only able to provide across one, which is partially damaged border crossing to the UN due to UN Security Council restrictions. Reports that Turkey has also opened up 2 other borders is welcome news, but no agencies are likely able to use these until they receive UN authorization from the Security Council.
So do you think that's like, well, certainly it seems as if the UN Secretary General agrees with you, Antonio Guterres. Do you think it's likely to happen? Will the UN Security Council be convened and will they enable these other crossings to be used?
Thanks, Dick. So the geopolitics behind the cross-border aid mechanism go back, nearly 6-7 years. It's going to be a hard move. It's going to require that Russia and China step back from their previous maximal positions regarding cross-border aid into Syria in the name of providing emergency relief to 4 million people. And a big piece of this is ensuring that they grant unfettered humanitarian access for all parts of northwest Syria through all borders into northwest Syria from Turkey. But at the same time, all options must be on the table. This includes bringing aid from other parts of Syria, including in the northeast, where an existing aid infrastructure has been operating alongside the northwest for several years. Meanwhile, other options looking at increasing cross-line aid, but these themselves are also political and problematic, given previous well-done reporting and research regarding the Syrian government's obstruction of aid and ongoing concerns from the humanitarian community in Syria regarding the implications of this.
And layered on top of lack of provision of food, clothing, shelter, of course, it's also appalling weather conditions. It's bitterly cold, it's freezing cold, which will have a devastating effect, particularly on children.
Certainly. Women and children, even before the earthquake, made up the vast majority of people who faced acute vulnerabilities and protection needs in northwest Syria. And with the closure of borders and the limited access, this only amplifies those needs and only amplifies concerns over the long-term implications. There are options beyond just moving. We can look at potentially opening air corridors. You have U.S. and NATO air assets in Turkey and in the region. There are ways to airlift goods into the area that are needed immediately to ensure that people have critical things such as shelter, non-food items, as well as food, water, and other medicine.
Yep, it's a deeply troubling situation. Jesse Marks, we appreciate your perspective. Thanks very much indeed for speaking to us. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.